Hi, today I want to talk about time management. You don't have enough time in your day, do you? Because I definitely don't. If I could do like one superpower, it might be adding 6 hours to my day every day. I run out of time for things all the time. But let's talk about ways that you could better manage your time. Because if you get a handle on really good time management skills that work for you, it means you're going to be more organized, you're going to get more done, but not, you'll work smarter, not harder, and you are going to be way less stressed because you don't have all these overwhelming thoughts in the back of your head of all the things that I need to do. So, how do we start? The first thing that you need to do is you need to be aware of how you're spending your time. You can't change something that you don't really understand and you don't really get what's going on. So the first thing you need to do is either track your time or log your time or understand where it is that you're spending your time. Time management might be something as broad as how do I plan or structure my 24-hour day. It might be something as small as how many hours am I allowed to spend, minutes, whatever, on social media on a given day, right? So before you can plan how many minutes or hours you want to spend on social media, you need to know how much you're already spending on social media. That awareness, that understanding, that's the first key step in managing your time well. The second important part, though, is to be realistic. You need to be realistic that there are only 24 hours in a day. There's one of you, and that's it. We can do a lot of things. We can do many things. We cannot do everything. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter how hard you see other people working. I guarantee I've watched this for a while now because I'm really interested in time management and how people kind of structure their day and schedule their day. And I see people doing things that I'm like, I don't have time to do that. And then I realize that it's because I'm doing other things instead, right? And one is not better than the other, but just understand that you need to make sure what works for you is working for you and not compare yourself to what other people are doing. Because even though it looks like they're doing 100 things in a day, they're not. Okay. So be realistic with the time you have available. You really want to prioritize what you're spending your time on, right? We talk about this a lot, but I don't know that anyone ever actually does a lot of work on it, on how to really focus and figure out what are your priorities. So the two main priorities for most people tend to be around family and work. So obviously needing to make a living and needing to feed their family. And then maybe things that kind of support that. So you might need to, scheduling in your commute time is a huge part of work. So that might be something that needs to take a priority. And from there, you can kind of figure out where your priorities lie. So, are your priorities spending time with friends? Is it hobbies? Is it walking your dog? Is it exercise? Is it going to the gym? Is it cooking? Is it reading? Is it whatever it might look like? Um, Taking your kids to a hockey game, right? Like you kind of have to sort out where your priorities are, but make sure that the biggest priorities for you get put in the calendar first, and that if you have time, you can sprinkle in the smaller ones after. But making sure you carve out time for those major priorities for you is going to help make sure that they get into your day. Um, To-do lists can be really helpful if you use them correctly. I love lists. I love making lists and I love crossing things off of lists. And I know a lot of people feel the same way. The point where a to-do list fails me is when I put something on a list and I don't feel like doing it and it just keeps getting shoved down the list or bumped to my next to-do list as it doesn't have an end date. So that's the downfall with to-do lists. So if you are a person who likes lists, I recommend like creating a list either within the context of a day or a week or maybe even a month, but to say, okay, so it is January, I'm going to get this and this and this and this and this done and accomplished this month. So tying a time or a completion date in with your to-do list can be really helpful. The other thing is a calendar. So this works really well in combination with a to-do list, but any organized person that I know uses a calendar of some form. So it doesn't need to be a big fancy, thing that's color coded or whatever. Although if that works for you, that's amazing. It can be a digital calendar. I use my Google Calendar all the time. The thing I love about my digital calendar is that it can remind me of stuff. So I can get 10-minute reminders or dings or whatever when I have to remember to do that. And this hour is scheduled for that or whatever. That's what I love about my digital calendar. But a physical calendar is really good for people who are very visual and tactile, like if they like writing stuff out and kind of seeing things organized that way. So, or a combination of the two. So find a calendar that works for you and a calendar system that works for you to help get yourself organized. Because when you have things kind of structured and scheduled out, it makes it a lot more doable. The next thing is, if you have something on your list that needs to be done or that you're pushing down the list that is really hard, do it early in the day. The things that are, we have more brain power, we have more motivation, we have more enthusiasm early in the day compared to later in the day. So if you have something on your list that is just like keeps getting put to the side, make sure you carve out time early in the day to make that work. And it's more likely to get done if you do it then. Also important is to schedule rest. So make sure that you're putting in there, um, quiet time or a nap if you nap, or a mindfulness activity, or even so rest in the sense of sleep. So if you have to schedule sleep, by all means schedule sleep, but and prioritize sleep. But even rest throughout the day. When we work on something for a long period of time, our brain gets really tired of it. And rest might even mean going to cook something or do the dishes or vacuum or go for a walk outside or a breathing exercise or just sit and stare at the clouds. Something that's different, something that takes your mind from what it was doing and looks at something else for a while, that's also rest. So if you're working on something that's really, really hard, instead of sitting there staring at it for 8 hours straight at your computer, which is a chunk of time, if you look at it for 2 hours and then go take a 20-minute break and come back and look at it for 2 hours, you won't need those 8 hours. Chances are you'll get it done faster. You'll be working smarter, not harder. You'll get it done faster. And those breaks throughout the day, those mental breaks, are actually really good for our creativity. So if it's a problem that you're trying to solve, and you've booked off an 8-hour workday to solve this problem, if you take breaks, you're going to be more creative with your problem solving and your solutions. So make sure you schedule those breaks in. If you don't already have a morning routine set up, having a really solid morning routine is a great way to start your day and is going to help improve your time management. That routine does not need to be a 3-hour gym, shake, meditation, mindfulness, walk the dog, all of the things. It doesn't have to be. It can be something as simple. It can be a 20-minute thing, 10-minute thing, whatever it is, but just something to kind of get you in the mindset for your day. So the things that I often recommend including in a morning routine would be like, start your day with a big glass of water, move, go for a walk or do some yoga or some stretching or a workout or whatever. Some sort of movement is a really great way to start your day. Maybe if it's a coffee or a tea or something that you enjoy, a breakfast can be part of a morning routine. But all of those things, if you don't really have a morning routine, it's easy to let your morning kind of drag on. And all of a sudden it's, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the morning and you haven't really started anything. So having that morning routine that you do regularly is going to help set you up for a really successful day. On the flip side, an evening routine is also a necessity in order to help you set up for a really successful night. So people who sleep well tend to have really good evening routines. It can be whatever you want it to be: yoga, stretching, mindfulness, journaling, tea, like a sleepy time tea, watching a TV show or something to kind of unwind. But those evening routines help your body to understand and know that it's time to go to sleep, that it's going to be time to go to bed. So not only does a morning routine set you up for a successful day, the evening routine sets you up for a successful night. Multitasking. So ages ago, I remember when I was like in high school, being a multitasker was a really great thing. I remember putting it on resumes that I could really multitask well. And then it came out that multitasking was not all it was cracked up to be. And I remember being a little offended. I'm like, no, I can multitask, believe me. Well, yes and no. I mean, yeah, I can do more than one thing at a time. I'm a mom. I can do more than one thing at a time, but I can't do more than one thing at a time well. So if I'm trying to do like 6 or 7 things at once, which I don't really do anymore, but if I was trying to do that, none of them are getting my full attention. So multitasking is not a great way to spend your time. You might feel like you're doing more because you're tackling 6 tasks or 5 tasks or whatever at one time, but they're each going to take you longer. So if you just spend your time focusing on one task, again, this is back to working smarter, not working harder. If you spend your time focusing on one task, it's going to take you far less time than it would have if you were trying to do all 5 or 6 at once. So cut out the multitasking and your time will be much better spent. And my last recommendation is distractions. They're all around us. Kids running in and out of rooms and meetings, especially if they're home. Big one is phones, notifications, computers, all of those things. So set yourself up for as few distractions as possible, because if you're working, let's say you need to write a report for work, and you're doing it while you're on Facebook, your report is going to take 4 times as long as it would have if you didn't have Facebook open. So things that have worked for me, I turned off all the notifications on my phone except for phone calls and texts. So if someone is trying to reach me, I get that notification on my phone. But otherwise, I don't get any email notifications. I get no app or social media notifications. I have to actively go in to check them. So it means that my phone isn't blinking at me all the time, and it means that I'm much more deliberate about when I go in to check. I do the same thing on my computer, actually. So if I have, a bunch of tabs open, I'm not one of those people that likes all the tabs open, but especially if I have tabs from getting notifications, close those tabs. I will open them up and check them again sometimes and once in a while, but really it's not something that I leave up all the time because it's a big distraction. So if you can sort of find the things that you're most distracted by, which again comes back to awareness. When you're aware of what's distracting you, you can sort of work to kind of move those distractions out of the way. So those are my top tips for time management strategies and ways that you can make time better work for you. Again, reasonable expectations here, right? You're only one person and there's only 24 hours in the day, and you need 8 of those hours roughly to be sleeping. So you've got 16 hours that you can use to do whatever else you need to do. Don't feel like you need to do everything or need to do anything well. Maybe you're not cooking a 2-hour gourmet meal every day and that buys you back 2 hours of your time. Or maybe you are because that's what you love to do, and that's totally fine too. So find out what works for you. Let me know. I'm really curious what strategies you use to best manage your time. Please feel free to share them with me. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, let me know.